Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It is great to be with you here again today. And I got some really positive feedback based off some of the voice overs of various workouts from previous vlogs, and then also some people on my Instagram were just requesting to see longer form content surrounding my workouts. And so here I am with what will be a upper body workout. So this will be, I think it's my first upper body workout of the week. This is the final week within my mesocycle in terms of accumulation before my deload, so the week before my deload. So this is peak volumes, peak intensities, and all that good stuff. So you're going to be seeing me try and hold everything together whilst pushing myself to the limit, basically. And I'm going to take you through that upper body workout and just basically voice over some of the things that I'm thinking about as I'm going through the session. And there might be some kind of nuggets that you guys can take away. I think it's one thing to hear about kind of the principles, the science, a lot of the things that we talk about on this channel and that I talk about, but it's another thing to see it put into practice. So that's what we're going to see today. You're going to see me start off with delts, and I'm going to explain basically my rationale behind everything that I'm doing within the workout. So if you did enjoy this, definitely let me know in the comment section. At least give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. It's very much appreciated. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. As you guys might be aware of, something I've been prioritizing on my physique is my lateral delts, my side delts, trying to get those big caps to make me appear broader than I necessarily am, and that's all for that illusionary X-frame that every bodybuilder is trying to achieve. And so starting with my side delts here on the prime lateral raise. I guess a few things to note initially. Because this is a prime lateral raise, it's really cool because I can pick where the load is emphasized. And as you guys know, there's a growing body of literature supporting training at long muscle lengths, particularly having tension in that long muscle length. And so I can bias the loading to be at the start, the beginning range of motion, which is what I've been doing. Now, there isn't any direct literature on the side delts, and so this is me hedging my bets towards what I think is probably most productive. So I think people could argue it's not like a game changer, at least not that I know at the moment, but I've definitely been getting a lot from this. And it took me a little bit of time to enjoy the prime lateral raise. I didn't initially really dig it. I also went through moments of not grabbing the handles. Here you can see me grabbing the handles. I found by grabbing them and kind of contracting them hard, I almost found that I was able to just produce overall more force. I felt more powerful within the movement. I don't know how else to describe it. I don't know if there's something neurological going on with like gripping hard that's allowing me to produce more force through my lateral delts, but it felt better than not grabbing them. And you can also see I don't like set up how the picture on the machine says. You see there's a chest pad there. It kind of describes you leaning against that and having your chest against it. That just never felt right, or it like didn't feel like it was going to be productive at all. So I never did that for any of my sets, and you can see me here kind of set away from it. Actually, some people even I see using this and they sit the other way on the machine, and that isn't anything I wanted to do. You might notice there I took a bit of a pause. That's because these are myo match. That first set was just a straight set. These following sets have been myo match, so I think I got 15 on that first set there. So then that second set I think was something along the lines of 13 repetitions and then 2. So I did quite a lot of sets there. I only showed you 2, and now I've moved on to my partials on this as well. So these are like double trouble, because not only am I just doing the lengthened portion, I'm also biasing by selectorizing a 3 on this machine for the beginning portion to be the hardest. And yeah, these feel gnarly. They feel really good actually. And it felt a bit wrong doing partials at first, as I've had many videos talking about it, but they start to feel really right here. And you can see my lateral delts are certainly getting a lot of work in this lift. Forgive me, this is actually my second upper body session of the week because I have 3 at the moment. And this is one where I always have I'm always biasing my lateral delts, but I have a bit more of a chest focused on this session here. My other 2 I start with back. This session I start with chest. So you can see here I'm using this Cybex Eagle press, which I really like. You actually have the ability to be able to kind of use it more like a free positioning. the way I'm using it, it kind of locks me in this kind of converging path. But if anyone's used this machine before, you can kind of lock it out of that, and you can use it more like, so it has more freedom. But I hate that. I think one of the benefits of machines is that it actually locks you in very, very stably into a position. And so, yeah, this was a PR. I actually PR'd on like everything in this session. Was really, really pleased, and fighting to hold and have stability within that lift throughout the entire set. And many of these things I'm just showing you kind of one set, because it would just be excessive to take you through every single set that I did in that workout. I can always talk about where my set volumes got to for the session here. You can see I'm prepping for this Paramount overhead press. I've not seen this anywhere before, and I really, really like it. But something I do want to mention is you might see that I'm set off from it quite a lot in terms of where I'm seated. I'm not seated kind of right up against it, because I use this really to hit a good amount of obviously the shoulders, the anterior delts primarily, but also upper chest. So you can see here it really lines up nicely with the upper chest and the front delts there. And I really enjoy this lift. It's super humbling. You can't use a lot of weight on here. But again, I managed, I think, to get a 2-rep PR on last mesocycle. So I was really pleased about that. And you just have to make sure to really brace and set yourself up for success on these lifts. So next up is this. This is a hammer strength high row, I think it's called. I just wanted to show you me kind of like setting up into this, because one, I set up not seated on it, because by having myself positioned further away from the load like this, from where I'm pulling from, actually allows me to bias the lengthened position a little bit more, because otherwise this is quite short biased. A lot of pulling movements are. I also have the D handle there that allows me to pull in a more neutral grip position, which I really like, and it allows me to kind of set up where I am in terms of off the seat. I'm also rotating my torso here, so this is a pull around motion. We're pulling around the rib cage, and this has been popularized by Kassem at N1 in hope to get a further range of motion on the lats there. This is more lumbar lat focused, if we want to call it that. I get a really decent pump like through my entire lats as a whole. I don't tend to think too heavily about trying to really bias like the thoracic versus the lumbar versus the iliac lat, which is like the upper, mid, lower lats. I more so just think about lats and upper back, but if we were to categorize it, this is kind of where I'm taking inspiration from, is from Kassem's. I'm not going to say it's perfectly the same as the way Kassem would advise to do it, but this feels really, really good to me. I really enjoy this motion and getting kind of a nice stretch. You can actually see kind of the lats coming round the torso and stretching through, and I'm very, very stable. It's very important that I have my hip pressed up against the seat, which is all the way down at the bottom, and then my arm is pressed up against the chest pad, and those 2 points are super important, because if I didn't have that support there and that stability, I really couldn't get a decent lift going. I couldn't have decent intensity or anything. I would end up just breaking down. So this one is now a partial. The way I perform partials on these is essentially I use the point of which you see where my hand is on the chest pad. I like pull down to the chest pad. So you'll see every rep is pretty much to there. It's pretty much a 90-degree elbow bend. And I really like partials on these as well. It feels really, really decent to me. And I'm just thinking about, again, getting that nice full stretch, holding my positioning in terms of also torso, not letting it rotate round. And yeah, just taking it all the way until I feel like I'm kind of introducing too much other musculature to try and get the lift finished, or excessive momentum. So my next movement is this strive row, which is really cool because it's like the prime equipment in that I can bias the lengthen position. So I set the pin, kind of pin selectorized all the way to being hardest in that kind of lengthen position at the start of the range of motion. This is my full ROM set, where you guys have probably seen me row before, where I like to come stretch all the way over and then arch my back on the way back to get a little bit more of the kind of mid-low back and the erectors there. And I really like rowing like this. I have for a long, long time. Making sure on the way back when I change direction to make sure to control that entire eccentric, get a really big stretch across my entire back. But again, I've selectorized it for a reason in that lengthen position, and then you'll see me do a lengthen partial set. Again, like I said with the lateral delts, there's no direct research on the back yet. Hopefully we will get some, and hopefully it confirms what we expect to happen but a lot of people are kind of taking that literature and applying it to other muscle groups a bit ahead of having that direct literature. But I think it makes a lot of theoretical sense. I don't see why the back musculature wouldn't respond any differently. Weirdly enough, I can actually max out this machine for a good amount of reps. I'm using the maximum load on it, and I wouldn't say my form is super sloppy and I'm just lifting with ego. It's just, I think, the way the machine's set up, and I'm reasonably strong, I guess. This is the length and partial, so here I'm just pulling all the way until my hands get to like the selectorization of where you can have the chest pad. And these are nasty because, again, this is like doubled up because this is emphasized in the length and range anyway because of the machine, and then I'm doing a length and partial. So these are really nasty, and these give me a crazy burn and pump across my upper back. I say crazy, foot back, because you don't get crazy pumps in your back, full stop. At least I don't. But it feels very, very good. And again, I'm just making sure where with the full ROM, I'd kind of make sure to come off the chest pad and like arch back. And I'm like, no, I'm trying to keep my chest and stomach on the pad the entire time and through every single rep there. I finish up with then some arms. Arms are, as you might imagine, de-emphasized for me, or maybe you think they're emphasized because they are a strong point. But there's something I have de-emphasized for a long, long period of time now, and they just seem to grow no matter what. I actually wasn't particularly happy with how this felt as I was performing it. My left arm here, I actually have a slap tear. So I have some instability through the shoulder joining kind of the bicep here. And so it often feels a bit unstable and doesn't feel as good. But when I watch it back, I think it actually looked very reasonable. It just felt a bit off. My right side feels a bit better because, again, I don't have that kind of slap tear on that side. But yeah, these look reasonable. I was pretty happy with them. I only do 4 direct working sets for my biceps through the week. And I have much more for my triceps, though. But the triceps here, I say much more. It's still probably less than 10 direct working sets. Actually, no, it's definitely less than 10 direct working sets for my triceps. But I do a couple of sets at the end, which I'll come on to afterwards. But I really like these. Again, this is kind of using that literature in terms of biasing long muscle lengths, where you're getting the long head of the bicep because you're letting your elbow travel behind. And so I'm making sure to get a big stretch. These would be called like a Bayesian curl. As I'm coming forward, I kind of lean into it a little bit to like shorten it, but I'm not too concerned about getting the bicep short. Again, we do have direct literature on the biceps. They tend to kind of respond well to this like longer muscle length. So that's where that kind of thought process is going to. And a lot of my training, as you will have seen, I'm applying both full ROM and kind of length and partials. But I will admit, I've been biasing my kind of set volume more towards the length and partials, just because from what we know, I think that makes decent sense. I think you can make a good rationale for it. With these tricep pushdowns, obviously as I'm coming up with these, I'm really focusing on bringing my elbows back for a big stretch on the triceps versus just letting them kind of come up together. And I want my elbows throughout the range of motion as best as I can to be up and higher than where my wrists get to. And you have to kind of lean into these because you can do these reasonably heavy, but trust me, I'm not kind of cheating and just using my chest. As best as possible, I'm making sure the tension and the work is all being done by the triceps. Again, my form might get a little less than ideal on like a rep or 2 of these, but I think they're pretty decent. So guys, hopefully you took something away from that kind of workout overview where I talk through what movements I was doing while I was doing them, what I'm thinking about when performing them, and some of my rationale behind kind of my programming at the moment, and some things that are individual to me as well. You even see where I talked about some of the setup on some of the machines. It's very much like an individual thing where I feel it best. I think that's important to recognize too. Don't kind of look at any of the specific things that I'm doing in this session and think, Steve's doing this movement, so I absolutely must do it because I want to, have arms like Steve, so I should do what Steve's doing for arms. No, you probably shouldn't be, because like I said, I'm really de-emphasizing them. So some of the tidbits and kind of the form and technique is going to be relatively individual to me. That's why I tend to talk about more kind of broader principles and programming, and less about kind of specific methods and individualized things to me. But sometimes if you can see those programming kind of philosophies that are present and that I will kind of talk about and quote within some of my vlogs and some of the stuff that we talk about on the podcast, and then see me applying them to myself, that might help. And also seeing me kind of approach what I would call either maybe I got to a point where I technically broke down a little bit from like perfect technique, or I took most things to 0 RAR. It's actually very rare that I will completely fail on something. Normally I know when I've hit 0 RAR, and it's just the extra fatigue of going for that next rep is just not worth it, or also really negatively impact the rest of my session. That's a different topic for another day. I'll leave it here. Hopefully that was interesting. If you guys want to see any specific kind of workouts or specific kind of video overviews and voiceovers, do let me know about that. Otherwise, I'll catch you in the next one. And as always, so you guys know, at Revive Stronger, myself, the thing I do most of the time is coaching other individuals, whether or not that just be for fat loss, muscle gain, to stage, for a photo shoot, whatever it might be. We work with lifestyle clients as well, if you can call them lifestyle. Everyone's pretty serious, but we can definitely help a wide range of individuals. That's what we do at Revive Stronger, an online coaching company. So if you want to kind of check out the coaching, get a consultation with one of us, that'd be awesome. You can apply via the description. There'll be a link to check that all out. But otherwise, guys, I'll check you in the next one. Thank you as always. Take care.